Dear friends, it's my pleasure to speak with you today about our institutional values. And we are very fortunate to have with us to lead this discussion none other than our chairman, Mr. Devastri. Hello, sir.
Good morning.
Good morning. Sir, today I'm sitting in a seat which would be possibly envy of all our colleagues who are watching this video. They would also want to be in this position, asking you questions about our institutional values. And so the questions won't be to you as the chairman, but they'll be to you as a person who has played a pivotal role in shaping our institutional values. So to that extent, I'm merely a representative of our colleagues across various group companies spread across the length and breadth of our country. And sir, if I could, I would want to begin with a question that is foremost on the minds of everybody who's watching this video today. Values or culture is about actions, not words. And it gets built over a period of time. Given that, sir, why have we invested so much of efforts in explicitly articulating our values and propagating them through mediums like this?
It's an extremely important initiative because if you look at corporations world over, there is one universal truth, and that is institutions which are built on solid foundations, core values, they last long. You know, L&T is also built on very solid foundations of core value. And we will talk about that little later about some other organizations world over. But the fact remains that if you are working on creating an organization or an institution which is going to last over 100 years, then it is very important that the core values are articulated very well, they are understood by the people, and they are practiced by all those who work in the organization. And it has to go from generation to generation. We are currently at a very early stage as far as this business is concerned.
Yes. And
it is best done in the beginning and understood by all the, not only employees, but all those who are connected with us. It is only such organizations that last forever.
So there is a set of 7 values we have, and we debated quite a bit as to which value we should ask you to speak about first. And there was a complete consensus that it should be respect for individuals. Just to narrate to my friends who are watching this program today as well, just before the shoot began, Mr. Devastri wanted to ensure that all the people involved in this shoot also have a chair to sit in, and they're not standing while these proceedings are being shot. So we are very clear, sir, that if you are going to talk about values, this should be the first that we should address. Somewhere the question in our minds is that in the context of a commercial organization, where does respect for individuals stand?
See, whether it is an organization or a family, respect of individual is a basic need. And it starts from our family, our children, our parents, or our spouses. Everybody wants respect. That's a basic human need, and we can't compromise that. And particularly in an organization which is professionally managed, and ours is, we can't allow respect for individuals to go down. Because ultimately it's a people-oriented organization. And ours is a people-oriented business completely. So all individuals are important. Whether they are professionals, in the sense they are management graduates, or they are simple graduates, or they are non-graduates, all of them contribute. And therefore it's very essential that we treat them well. So if an entrepreneur comes to your office, a very respected senior person, he is doing his job. So you respect him because of his seniority, his contribution to the industry, and so on and so forth.
Right.
At the same time, the pantry boy who's serving tea and coffee to him, he's also doing his job. And he also wants to be recognized and respected for whatever he's doing, because those are his capabilities, and that's why you hired him and you kept him. So I think he needs to be respected equally. It's very essential that everybody in the organization needs to understand treatment and communication of employees very well. If you do that well, I'm very clear that you will also create a culture of high productivity. You will also create a culture of place to work for. So employees will feel like coming to the office because there is a general recognition and respect for whatever they are doing. So you will create an ambience of superior performance as well. So it will happen. Of course, there are a lot of other things need to be done in terms of development inputs and so on and so forth. I'm not talking about that, but I think this is a basic need of every individual.
Absolutely. So you mentioned creating a high performance organization. So my next question is in that context. Given that a high performance organization involves high passion, a lot of spirit behind it, a bit of competitiveness as well creeps in. In that case, as an individual, am I not better off focusing on my own deliverables rather than paying too much attention to our stated value of teamwork?
I think you simply and individually cannot deliver. It's actually the collective performance which matters a lot, and you can deliver much better as a team. See, we can't create silos. We of course want individuals who are high performing. Probably they will be leaders in your organization, probably. However, they simply cannot deliver alone. They will have to take the team with them. You take any example, a typical orchestra. You may have an expert who is a great violinist. There will be someone who will be playing accordion. There is someone who is playing rhythm instruments, etc. But individually they may be great. But if all of them don't work together, you can't create the melody. You can't deliver a fantastic performance or experience for the listener. So this is very important. Have you visited Sydney Opera House?
No.
It's a beautiful monument. And when we went there, they told a story how this particular landmark was created. So there were thousands of workers working there. There were hundreds of engineers. There were lots of designers. And there is a master who visualized the whole thing. But his visualization and a few engineers' work would not have resulted into this. This required a complete team. So team delivers. In our own business, you may have an excellent fund manager in mutual fund. But if he is not supported and if he does not partner with the sales team, you can't grow.
Right.
And in case of lending business, just selling is not important. Collection is equally important. So I think they have to work together. There is no question in my mind. In any business, in any environment, team is very, very important. They only will deliver, and therefore they need to work together. And teams, if they work better, they can exploit synergies better, they can cross-sell, the organization will grow and they will also grow. I think people need to understand working in teams doesn't mean that their individual performance in some way gets compromised. That's not true.
Absolutely.
They will grow because organization will grow.
Absolutely. So this takes us to the point of the business we do. Financing is after all a commodity business. We mobilize funds, we borrow, and we lend. Given this nature of business, where is the scope for customer centricity?
First point we need to understand, customer only will give you business. There is no question about it. Particularly in our business, as you rightly said, it's a commodity business. And therefore, what will make the customer come to you, really speaking? So in my opinion, there is a tremendous scope for customer centricity. And that only will make sure that you continue. And we are talking about creating a long-term sustainable organization. So from that perspective, it is essential that we understand the customer, we deliver the customer, you serve the customer in the best possible manner. Now, this can be done in various ways. First of all, of course, You need to have right quality of products and services. Without that, customer is not going to come to you. So your offerings must be good. Secondly, your people must be good. So people need to be really customer oriented, in the sense they would like to understand the customer's requirement, go deeper into that and make sure that they deliver to the entire satisfaction of the customer. So people are very, very important. Technology also has to be very, very good. All this, combination of all this will enable you to be customer centric. And therefore, what is required to be done in this case is you need to use 3 T's in this. And those T's are, you need to create trust. Secondly, you must be transparent. And the third thing is, which is also very important, you are talking of customer centricity, it comes very clearly in your turnaround time, your response, speed of response. Not only in actually meeting customers' requirement, but a customer wants a different product. Your ability to come out with a new product or a revised product or a modified product, that will determine. So any organization which quickly responds to the requirements of the customer, they will only survive.
Sir, the points of being able to spot this nascent customer need, responding to it, scaling the organization to be able to meet that need on a sustainable basis. Many of these things also have use of entrepreneurship in them. One of the questions I see a lot of our young colleagues have is that I'm doing a job which is at the entry level in the organization, primarily aimed at, it could be sourcing business or writing credit or processing transactions. Where is the scope, where is the opportunity for me to demonstrate that entrepreneurship?
First point is that in a professional organization, every employee should be an entrepreneur. See, when we are talking of entrepreneurship, what are we saying? We are saying basically your ability to take risk. Secondly, your ability to quickly respond to customers' requirement and deliver. The third thing is, you also you're actually telling the customer that I am this company. So you are representing the organization on behalf of the organization. So let's take an example. Here, a frontline employee meeting the customer. First of all, there should be pride in whatever he does. He has to demonstrate the pride that I am working for this organization and I am delivering you this quality product. So that has to be very clearly communicated to the customer. Secondly, he should be able to spot the risk very quickly. Whether the customer is okay customer, whether he is not a good customer, bad customer. So his analytical abilities have to be very, very sharp. And those inputs need to be provided by the organization team so that he is able to assess the customer very well. So he is sharpening his skills of taking risk. Entrepreneurship is a lot to do with risk management. Ability to accept risk, take risk, manage risk and mitigate risk. So his skills in these areas need to be very, very sharp. One point I want to tell you about pride. While I was on the board of L&T, I used to visit, when I was on the board, I used to visit a lot of construction sites. And today also, randomly you go to any construction site of L&T. The site supervisor or supervisors and the people who are working over there, you will find pride in their eyes. They represent Larsen & Toubro. So they say, we are delivering this to the customer. So once that pride is there, he's thinking that this is owned by me. This particular structure is owned by me, created by me, and I am delivering to the customer. Same is the case over here. When we are in service sector, we also need to ensure that the customer knows that this is this employee is actually the organization. And if he does that, then he's an entrepreneur because he's building long-term relationship with the customer. He's assessing the customer. He's creating new business opportunities for the company. That's what the entrepreneurs do. They spot opportunities. So a lot can be done by people who are, but one thing is very clear, they need to know, they need to have this faith that I own this organization. Ownership doesn't mean you need to have equity stakes. Ownership means that you need to really believe in the organization and in the growth and future of this organization. Then you will work towards that and you will act like an entrepreneur.
Another of our values deals with excellence. And what is very energizing in that is that it talks about that continuous improvement, doing better every single day. Sir, could you just link it, connect it to all the values that you have spoken with us so far?
See, excellence is something which has to be in your genes, because otherwise you cannot survive in a service industry. There are two things which are extremely important for a company like ours: customer centricity and innovation. Okay, if you have an innovative culture in the organization, you will deliver excellence. What does that mean? You have to constantly come out with new products and services. You have to modify your products and services. You have to bring in new customers. You have to also grow. As far as the customer is concerned, the business with him also has to grow. All that can happen only and only if you have excellence in everything which we do. Very recently, we brought about changes in our own organization. Now, why have we done it? We have done it only because we want to serve the customer in the best possible interest. This is also an aspect of excellence. We have changed the organization model to serve the customer better. Of course, the company will also benefit arising out of that. But that is, and how quickly you do that without disrupting the organization in any way, minimizing disruption in the company, particularly about the people. So if you do it with minimal disruption and do it quickly, that helps the company in to a considerable extent. So I think what I'm trying to say is that a flexible, adaptive, innovative organization will deliver excellence. So in our organization also, that's exactly we have to do, because otherwise in a competitive situation, it will be very difficult for you to withstand. And apart from that, leave aside competition for a moment, we are talking of creating a sustainable organization. The hallmark of a sustainable organization is continuous change.
Sir, while doing all of this, there is also a very reasonable expectation of our society from us that we will do so ethically within the bounds of integrity. And this question is particularly important for us in the financial services industry, because world over, there have been organizations who had integrity and ethics as their so-called stated values, but they did something that was exactly the opposite. How do we make sure that we don't follow that path, but remain within the very clear definition of what's right and what's wrong?
There are a number of things which are required to be done to ensure that integrity is understood by the organization, by all people who work in the organization. It is practiced by the organization, and it is also known to the external world that this is what they mean by integrity. So that has to be very clear. For that, the first point is that the leaders need to walk the talk. There is a tremendous responsibility on leaders. You gave some examples, or you talked about some companies in the financial services sector. It's not only financial services sector, but if you take any industry, wherever there were problems, all those problems started from the top. So first point is that the leaders need to understand integrity very well. And those boundaries within which we are going to work need to be defined very clearly. The second important point is the organization should also have well-defined policies on this subject. What is acceptable, what is not acceptable. Something which is not acceptable, what are the consequences of that? Those have to be clearly defined. I think many companies fail on this particular point because there is no well articulated policy on this subject. So what I'm saying is, if really you want to practice, or if you want to ensure, and by the way, all those great organizations which, if you study them, they all have survived because they have extremely high ethical standards.
Right.
Otherwise, you cannot really survive.
Right.
Organizations will just disappear, and we have in our country also some examples where companies have just disappeared because they did not have this policy, number one, and secondly, they did not practice it. See, you can also have a document, but unless it is practiced, so people should know if they don't behave or act in a particular manner, and if they act otherwise, what is going to happen to them, and it must be ruthlessly followed. Customers, business associates, bankers, everybody needs to know that this company has it's above board. This is not acceptable in this organization, and L&T has created that over the last many years, 70 years. That is very dear to us. The governance standards of the organization also are part of this integrity culture. So it's not that, I must also confess, it's not that nothing goes wrong in an organization. Things can go wrong because when you have 70,000 employees or 60,000 employees, somebody in a corner somewhere may do something wrong. It's a question of how do you deal with that, and what is the organizational treatment and response to that. That is very important. Then you can create a good integrity culture in the organization, and I think that is extremely important for us in financial services. It is important in all the businesses, but in financial services business it is more important. Apart from the fact, tomorrow you grow and you really become a bank, then this is very, very critical. Trust of all the depositors. That is the most important word. They are giving you money, they trust you, and if there are integrity issues in the organization, then I think how will anybody trust you? And you will not. So it's a core value for the organization and core for this particular business. So this needs to be understood by all employees in the organization. Not only employees, our suppliers, our business associates also need to understand that this organization will not do something which is funny.
Absolutely. And somewhere, sir, all of this leads to creating a sustainable organization which is there for 100 years to come.
Yeah. It's very clear. I think financial services business, if you have right strong foundations, you can create perpetual entity. And my idea, or our vision rather, is to create that kind of an organization. So it should last forever. That's something. And all what we have discussed so far will create that. But if any one of the piece is missing, then you will not be able to create. Let's look at people. In a sustainable organization, your people orientation has to be supreme. How do we treat people? We talked about self-respect. We talked about performance-oriented culture. We talked about innovation. All these are aspects of how do we orient people, how do we treat people. Only when you have this kind of a culture, you will be able to attract people, retain them, motivate them, energize them to deliver more and more. That's what we want. We want an excellent organization. That can happen only if you have a people-oriented culture. So a sustainable organization needs to have people-oriented policies which take into account all these aspects: customer centricity, innovation, performance management, etc., etc. The other important aspect which we did not discuss: almost all lasting organizations do not necessarily have only shareholders' interest in mind. Shareholders' value creation is a result. There are many other stakeholders. Community at large is an extremely, extremely important stakeholder. And all those organizations who flourish for long term, they care for community. They take into account community's interest. So, for example, if you are talking of our microfinance business now, we are doing it not only because it's a business, because it's an extremely important part of the inclusion agenda. And that's a community with which we have to deal with. When we want to go to rural India, it's very important that the families of farmers or otherwise are also provided with facilities through which their income goes up. So if you have to make sure that the community, so through your CSR initiatives, through many other initiatives, you touch the lives of many people. And you also ensure that they know you for this culture, that we care for them. And we are not just here for doing business and going away. That's very important. So this aspect of community is also very critical for long-term sustainability.
So thank you so much for sharing your thoughts on every single one of our values. And most importantly for us, you brought the slightly dry and drab verbiage of these values to life with examples which connects to what it means to us as an organization that is poised for even bigger dreams and even a even more glorious future in days to come. Friends, our HR and communications team have come up with an acronym for our values. It stands for RECITES. R for respect for individuals, E for excellence, C for customer centricity, integrity, teamwork, entrepreneurship, and sustainability. But let me be the first to tell you that values is not about reciting. It's about living them in every day that we work with this organization. And it is in living these values that we will realize our vision of being an organization that our stakeholders find worthy of admiration and inspiration. Thank you so much.